Hello. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Excellent. So my name is Brian Vida, and I was a friend of Dave's since childhood, and we worked together up until his passing. So I just wanted to say a few words. And forgive me for having notes. This is obviously very emotional, so trying not to break up. Forgive me if I do, and I just don't want to miss anything. As I said, thank you everybody for coming today as we remember and celebrate this amazing man. I'm going to do my best to hold it together. Please forgive me if I struggle at times. However, my intention is to celebrate Dave's life while we remember the many wonderful times Dave brought to so many people. That is something I've been reminded of a lot these past few weeks. Dave knew everybody, and everybody loved him. I don't know a single person who did not like, respect, or love Dave. And that spans worldwide. Dave worked everywhere and knew everyone. For my part, I met Dave when I was 11 and he was 12. My family transferred from New Jersey and his from Chicago, both to Orlando. As fate would have it, both families moved a few houses, a few blocks apart, and we shared the same school bus stop. We grew up just a couple of streets up the road. Early on, Dave was closer with my older brother, Mike, right there, because they were in the same grade. I was the little brother who tagged along yelling, "Hey, wait for me!" But they always did, and they always made me feel like I belonged. That's not always the case for little brothers, so I really appreciated that. We had a very close group of friends that did everything together. Games, movies, rode bikes, canoe trips, pool days, read the same books, and on it went. As we got into our high school years, my brother and I transferred to a different school, which was a rival of the school that Dave and the others went to. Oftentimes, that kind of thing leads to friends drifting apart, but not us. We'd get together after school and on the weekends, still see movies, still play games as if nothing has changed. This is when Dave started taking a huge interest in theater, production, and all things technical. And I had decided I was going to be a rock star. Spoiler alert, his dream worked out better than mine did. I didn't become a rock star. Anyway, I joined a band that would rehearse at my parents' house, and on more than a few occasions at Dave's parents' house. Can't believe the stuff you guys put up with. I'm sorry about the noise ordinance complaints. Dave soon realized we needed a sound system of our own, so he would borrow the high school sound system and bring it to home for the weekends. He worked a deal with the director explaining that he was going to learn how to do it on his own so he could help the high school jazz band. And so he would run sound for us, and he learned how to use the sound system. He was never afraid to dive right in, start hitting buttons, turning knobs, or pushing faders to see what they did. And whenever we were lucky enough to get a gig, Dave was always there to run sound or lights or support us in any way he could. Eventually, he went to a technical school on the west coast of Florida, so we'd see less of him. My band started playing clubs, and Dave would keep track of where we were playing. When he could, he'd drive to the gig, show up unannounced, and just walk in carrying whatever new toys he'd found and start setting them up. I remember one day he walked in with a huge smile on his face, looked at us and yelled, "Hi!" And I'm sure a lot of you know Dave. He would do that when he walked into a room. With two full-size police lights, working police lights in his hands. One red, one blue, and he mounted them to my drum cage. To this day, that is the coolest thing I've ever had in my drum kit. We had an opportunity in our early 20s to play at Hard Rock cafes throughout Mexico and the Caribbean. We asked Dave to be our road manager and run sound and lights, and he accepted. I believe it was about 2 weeks before our departure to Mexico, the first time any of us had been out of the country, when he developed appendicitis and had to have his appendix removed. So we thought it would mean he would not be able to do the trip with us. But Dave believed the show must go on. 2 weeks later, he was on a plane to Mexico, and off we went. There was no stopping him. It was the adventure of a lifetime, and I'm so glad we were able to experience it together. About 2 years later, the band broke up, and Dave went into corporate audiovisual. He traveled all over the globe doing incredible events and working with great people. A story I have to share was during an event for Cartoon Network. I'm sure people have seen their shows. He was the project manager for the event, and it was a tour. They were in LA, staying in a very exclusive hotel because the event was at a venue across the street. The club at this hotel was well known for Hollywood stars and famous athletes showing up there. So much so it was actually called the Star Bar. You had to either be on the guest list or be a hotel guest to get in. Dave was riding the elevator down to the Star Bar to watch people when the elevator stopped and in walks Regis Philbin. Then he was famous for Live with Regis and Kathy Lee. The two of them hit it off on the ride down. Dave's a people person after all. Dave invites Regis to enter the bar before him, and it turns out Regis was not staying at the hotel, and he was also not on the guest list. Regis is a nice guy, and he politely told the door guy who he was meeting there, but it was no good. "I'm sorry, Mr. Philbin, you're not on the list." So Dave stepped up with his room key and says, "Regis is here with me. I invited him for a drink," or some such story, and they let them both in. Dave had to get a TV star into the Star Bar. The next morning, Regis told the story on live TV. "They wouldn't let me in, and this big guy had just been in the elevator, puts his arm around me, and he says, 'He's with me.'" And that's classic Dave. He would do things like that time and again. Many years later, my band did get back together and was asked to play the grand opening of a new Hard Rock in Cancun, Mexico. Dave was already a successful project manager with an audiovisual company and could not join us. When we began our sound check, it became instantly apparent the club technician had no idea what he was doing. The lights were just flashing on and off. I thought I was going to have a seizure. We were in Mexico. We had no idea who to call to fix the issue. Suddenly, we hear something from the dance floor. "Hi, guys!" And there's Dave with a huge smile on his face. Always smiling he was. That's a Yoda shout out from my buddy. He took some vacation time, and just like all those years when we started out, he just walked in to save the day, doing what Dave did so well. He introduced himself to the house technician, complimented on the job he was doing, then said, "I might be able to show you a few tricks if you want." The tech looked relieved, and Dave went to work. It was literally $1 million sound and light show, and it was brand new. Normal people would have been very intimidated to mess with it. It took Dave about 5 minutes to get things figured out. He programmed away, and in 20 minutes had the lights looking great and the room sounding wonderful. Crisis averted. This was something he did on a regular occasion throughout his career as an audio and lighting tech, a project manager, and a senior technical director. If a crew member got sick, Dave jumped in the seat and figured out how to run the equipment and get through the show. When I finally left the music scene, I went into corporate production like Dave, and we ended up working together for an Orlando-based company. After a number of years, Dave took an opportunity with the larger company and moved to Las Vegas and then Arizona. He was a bit lonely, so far from home, and he wanted a girlfriend, but he had more stringent rules on who the perfect girl was than anyone I'd ever known. He turned down opportunities while holding out for the right girl. Dave was my best friend, so we talk about this stuff a lot.
Oh, really?
Yes, we do.
I didn't know that.
I say he was my best friend because that changed the day he met Ludette. She would then become remain his best friend. She, of course, became so much more than that. The best way I can put it is Dave was smitten. And in case you don't know what that means, I know English is not your first language. It means that he was infatuated, crazy about you, head over heels, loved you. Okay?
Thank you so much.
They shared a love more deeply than most of us will ever know. We would be across the country or even the world surrounded by burly technicians or high-profile clients. It did not matter who was there. If Ludette called, he excused himself from the conversation and answered the phone with, "Hi, my love," or "Hi, lovey."
I didn't know that.
Yes, you did. You were on the other end of the phone. Or some other term of endearment, and he did not care who heard. He would end the call the same way, telling her he loved her multiple times, almost with the, "No, you hang up first." Everyone would smile and instantly acknowledge how he felt for her. If anything, that grew over time. It was like being around two high school sweethearts even years into their marriage. Ludette, you were his world, and thank you so much for making Dave the happiest guy on the planet.
He was my one too.
I know.
He's been happy.
You exceeded even his demanding expectations of the perfect girl. I'm almost done, I promise. I could go on for hours about Dave, though. Dave, of course, was also the best son and brother I think anyone could ever ask for. After he moved to the West Coast for work, he always talked to me about how he wanted to be back closer to his parents. Though with different companies, we still worked on the same events together. He finally had made up his mind it was time to come home, and luckily our company had an opening. We were once again working full-time together, and Dave was finally home to Orlando. There were many times we planned our workday around a family function that he wanted to be a part of. As simple as helping someone move something, fix something, be there for a birthday party, whatever it may be. It was never a burden for Dave. It was what he enjoyed doing. Family always came first. I remember multiple times he arranged to get equipment to help his sister Becky with one of her projects. But it was not enough to just get the gear. He'd go set it up or help in any way he could. Where are you, Becky? Becky? He was so proud of you. He often told me you should write a book and become a keynote speaker. He would run ideas by me to see if I thought it would work or ask what clients would be a good fit for you for such a presentation. If you ever decide to pursue it, you should. Dave believed in you, and so do I. While Dave's time with all of us was far too short, I'm grateful for the time we had. He made me so much better than I ever could have become on my own. I know he did the same for a lot of others as well, some that are here today. So many people in our industry got their start or were able to climb the ladder because of Dave's support. He helped his brother-in-law Chris begin a new career in audiovisual, not just encouraging or showing him where to get training, but pushing others to get him on gigs. I remember a few discussions where he said, Chris is available. I said, Dave, he just started a month ago. I mean, and he would say he knows what he's doing, and I trust him, and you did know what you're doing, and you've been great. There are so many similar stories of Dave believing in people and helping them however he could. Dave, you'll always be with me, and I'm sure with so many others. I still find myself asking how you'd handle something, and even though I can't call you to discuss it, I can hear your voice and know what you'd say, and it helps me find the right solution. You will be missed so much, but also I choose to remain grateful to have had your friendship for 42 years. I love you, buddy.